0.001 square meters. That is a full-size warplane, registering smaller than a marble on every radar screen on Earth. The F-117 Nighthawk is the most iconic stealth aircraft in history. It was never designed to fly, only to disappear. People assume stealth meant better aerodynamics. The F-117 flew so poorly, no human could control it without a computer. This video explains how a forgotten Soviet equation became America's most secret aircraft and made radar obsolete overnight. By the early 70s, American analysts faced a crisis. Soviet radar networks were destroying aircraft at unsustainable rates. Vietnam confirmed the arithmetic. Radar-guided missiles destroyed over 900 American aircraft, and electronic jamming could not compensate. The answer came from an unlikely source: a Soviet paper describing how electromagnetic waves scatter across flat geometric surfaces. Skunk translated those equations and found a breakthrough. Angled flat panels could deflect radar energy away from the transmission source. The concept became Have Blue, a faceted prototype so aerodynamically hostile that Lockheed engineers called it the hopeless diamond. Have Blue flew at Groom Lake in '77, unstable and crash-prone, but delivering a radar cross-section approaching absolute zero. The results proved so decisive that within months Lockheed received a full production contract, classified beyond every standard security tier. Designated senior trend, the program enforced secrecy so severe that fewer than 100 officials acknowledged the aircraft's existence. The base was Tonopah Test Range in Nevada. Aircraft stayed sealed inside hangars during daylight and launched exclusively after dark. Families received cover stories, and maintenance crews signed lifetime non-disclosure agreements, sustaining a secrecy regime spanning 1 decade. Concealment protected the timeline but was never the objective. The objective was what this geometry could impose on modern radar architecture. The F-117 was not built for speed or agility. It was built to make air defense networks structurally irrelevant through signature elimination. Every surface was a flat-angled panel, scattering radar energy in calculated directions, ensuring no signal returned to the transmission source. That geometry broke aerodynamic rules. Sharp angles created turbulence, and flat surfaces degraded lift beyond any stable flight threshold. Stability depended on a fly-by-wire computer correcting attitude dozens of times per second. The pilot flew the mission while software sustained the airframe. Every seam and access panel was treated as a radar reflector. Weapons bays stayed sealed until seconds before release to preserve signature integrity. Exhaust design flattened hot gas into narrow slits mixing with cool air, dropping the infrared signature below the threshold of heat-seeking sensors. Radar-absorbing material coated the airframe. Fragile and costly, every sortie required hours of post-flight inspection and surface restoration. The cockpit carried no radar and no afterburner. The F-117 held exactly 2 laser-guided bombs inside internal bays, and nothing else. The fighter label was misdirection. The F-117 was a strike platform that survived only through the complete avoidance of detection. Navigation used inertial systems and infrared sensors, passive instruments that found targets while emitting zero electromagnetic energy. 2 GBU-27 bombs weighing 2,000 pounds sat in internal bays. Doors opened for release, then sealed within 4 seconds. That brief opening was the only moment the aircraft appeared on radar. Pilots called it the boundary between invisibility and destruction. Top speed stayed below the sound barrier with no countermeasures and no weapons. If detected, the aircraft had zero chance of evasion. Every sortie demanded exhaustive route planning, flight paths, and altitude profiles calculated to keep the aircraft inside its narrowest signature envelope. The F-117 tolerated zero deviation. The margin between survival and exposure measured in fractions of operational discipline. If you want to understand the platform's reshaping air warfare, subscribe. We break down one system, one architecture, every video. For a decade, the F-117 was denied publicly. Then in December '89, it deployed to combat, and global awareness shifted permanently. Operation Just Cause sent 2 F-117s against targets near Rio Hato in Panama, the first stealth combat deployment in history. The bombs missed their intended targets, and the strike was imperfect. But no radar tracked the aircraft, and no missile was ever launched. 14 months later, the F-117 faced its defining test: the opening hours of the Gulf War against the most fortified airspace since Vietnam. January 17, '91. 36 F-117s entered Iraqi airspace alone. No escorts, no electronic warfare support. Their targets were the most dangerous nodes in Iraq's defense network: command bunkers, radar stations, and communications infrastructure. In one night, the F-117 destroyed 37 critical targets, 0 radar detections, 0 guided intercepts, 0 aircraft lost. But the real story was not the strike itself. It was the cascading advantage the F-117 created for every aircraft that followed. By destroying Iraq's radar network in the first hours, the F-117 opened safe corridors for every conventional aircraft that followed. The F-117 represented 2.5% of coalition aircraft, yet struck over 40% of strategic targets on the first night. Across 1,299 sorties, the program recorded 0 losses. The aircraft restructured the doctrine of precision air warfare. 12 years later, the F-117 hit Baghdad again during Iraqi freedom. Same mission profile against upgraded defenses, same result. Stealth showed no degradation. A platform from the 70s remained untouchable against early 2000s air defense systems. But that perfect combat record carried one structural fracture, and it materialized not over Iraq, but in the contested airspace above Serbia. March 27, 1999. An F-117 callsign Vega 3-1 flew a combat sortie over Serbia during Operation Allied Force. A Serbian battery commanded by Colonel Danny operated a Soviet-era SA-3 missile system, hardware from the 1960s procurement cycle. Danny's crew modified their radar, using long wavelengths and short bursts, combined with constant repositioning to detect stealth signatures. At 8:15 that evening, the battery caught a faint return. 2 SA-3 missiles launched in sequence, and one struck the F-117. The pilot ejected and was rescued. The wreckage landed in a Serbian field, the first confirmed shoot-down of a stealth aircraft in combat. The loss was not a stealth failure. The F-117 had flown identical routes at identical times on consecutive nights, creating a predictable pattern. Low-frequency radar could detect stealth geometry under certain conditions, reducing the detection window, but never fully eliminating it. $350 million per airframe lifecycle. That was the cost of a fleet of just 59 operational aircraft. The radar-absorbing skin demanded constant attention. A single scratch or degraded patch could multiply the radar signature by orders of magnitude. Maintenance crews spent more hours restoring stealth coatings than on any other task. The most surface-intensive aircraft in military aviation. No radar, no afterburner, 2 bombs. The aircraft required total darkness and exhaustive route planning for every single sortie. It was a single-role strike platform in an era demanding multi-role flexibility, capable of delivery but incapable of self-defense. Successor platforms offered stealth with far greater utility. The B-2 carried 16 times the payload, and the F-22 added air dominance. In April 2008, the Air Force retired the F-117 fleet. The ceremony held at Tonopah, where operations first began. Retirement did not mean disposal. The aircraft entered Type 1000 storage, a classification permitting full recall within months. Officially retired, yet for years, F-117 airframes kept appearing over Nevada, unmarked, unannounced, absent from any public flight record. The Air Force confirmed classified testing use, likely as radar calibration targets and stealth validation platforms for successor programs. The F-117 did not just prove stealth worked, it built the doctrine and methodology and design language that every stealth aircraft since inherited. The B-2 Spirit replaced flat facets with continuous curves, computed by algorithms that did not exist when the Nighthawk was designed. The F-22 Raptor merged stealth with fifth-generation agility, building signature management into an airframe engineered for supersonic dominance. The F-35 embedded stealth into a networked sensor platform, turning low observability from a specialty into a baseline requirement. The B-21 Raider carries the F-117's logic into intercontinental range, combining stealth survivability with vastly greater payload. Every successor traces its philosophy to one insight: surviving modern air defense means avoiding detection entirely. That insight came from a Soviet paper Moscow never weaponized. Skunk Works translated it and built the most secret aircraft in American history. 64 built, 5 lost to accidents, 1 to combat, 0 lost to a fair fight. The most asymmetric strike record in modern aviation. Ugly, subsonic, carrying less than a light bomber. Yet it changed air warfare doctrine more than any platform since the jet engine. The hopeless diamond became the foundation of American air dominance for half a century. Not through speed, but through the elimination of presence. Stealth did not make war invisible. It made the first strike survivable. and the platform that strikes first unseen defines the outcome. The F-117 proved it with 2 bombs, no radar, no escort, crossing the most defended airspace of its generation without detection. Invisibility was only the beginning. The successor carries 80 times the payload at 3 times the range. That is the B-2 spirit.